All right, hello everyone. My name is Rhett Reefer. I'm the executive director for CowboyThon, and myself and Piper are gonna talk over a recipe for success in sponsorships. And I'm gonna let Piper introduce herself as well.
Hi guys, my name is Piper Gatlin and I'm the Assistant Executive Director for CowboyThon this year.
All right, let's get into it. I'd like to start off by talking about the impact of sponsorships we had from this last year. And to do that, I'm going to first show in this chart the impact from 2024 to 2025. So in 2024, CowboyThon raised $35,000. And in 2025, that number increased by 75% to $61,000. Obviously, that is a large increase right there. And you can see over here in this pie chart that almost 30% of sponsorships came from um, the increase from 2024 to 2025, almost covers the entire increase. So that alone helped us make that jump. And then what are some of these sponsorships we had? 2025, some of our sponsorships, as you can see in the graphic to the side as well, is Reese Chiropractic and Wellness PC, Martin Jean and Jackson Attorneys at Law, Interworks, Stillwater Medical Center, and Loves. And my question is how many of you guys know what any of these are? And I bet the answer for that is none. Maybe at the minimum, you know what Loves is if you've ever gone on a road trip through the middle of the country. Other than that, these are all Stillwater-based businesses that we have personal connections to, and that is the focus of our sponsorships and our presentation today.
Yeah, and so with your sponsorships, you really want to be thinking outside the box. And so something we want to emphasize is that these sponsorships and companies do not have to be healthcare related companies. So some examples of this are locally owned businesses, law firms, or even HVAC companies that your parents might own. So for this, Cowboython used connections to make asks from people who care about us and who care about the community. So that being said, you really want to be leaning into your connections and your communities. So this picture is a map of Stillwater. So Stillwater is a college-centered town. And so during the school year, our population nearly doubles, and our town really thrives when school's in session. Everyone comes together for homecoming and football games. And so most of the people who live in Stillwater are most likely alumni who care about OSU and OSU's causes. We bleed orange, so you really want to use that. And with using that, you also want to be leaning into your identities on campus and in your communities. So one of our things our community has is Cowboys Helping Cowboys. OSU, our mascot is Pistol Pete Cowboys. So we really help each other. And so school pride goes a long way. So you really want to build off of that. Get athletics involved, get Greek life involved, your mascot. And so in this picture we have Pistol Pete and Connor. So we're really bridging the gap there between our dance marathon and our college.
Awesome. So, starting to break this down into what this actually looks like, the first thing that's important to note is levels of connections that you have. And so I think the best way to illustrate this is going to be this chart on the right that just shows physically how close these are to you. So in the middle there are going to be your primary connections, and that's going to be friends and family. So who you personally know. It's going to be your closest, easiest to use. The next one is going to be your secondary connections, and these are people that you don't directly know, but you've probably heard of or you know through friends and family, so who they know. An example of this that I like to think of is my friend's dad from high school. And I know that from previous experience, whenever I played football, that he was a donator. He was generous to the school then. So I think it would be worth using that connection to reach out to him and his business. And then that last circle of connections that you see there is going to be non-personal connections. That's large companies and businesses that you don't have any personal connection to. The most important thing to note with this is there is no dance marathon that has the wrong size for any ask. You can't be too small for an ask, you can't be too large for an ask. Always just look at these companies, and the worst that you can get is a no. The next thing that's important to look at is who should communicate. And what we found in our year was anyone can communicate. It just needs to be the best available person to reach out. and that does not have to be yourself. And whenever I say utilize a large group of people, is we have big committee that we used, and you can see there a picture. That's a lot of people that are potential connections that you can use. The important thing to note with allowing them to make connections is, as leadership, we should provide the materials to help them be able to properly communicate.
And not only should we be asking who should ask, but we should be looking at how we should ask as well. So, step one, something you can do is drop up a folder with something memorable. We really want to be triggering how we have that connection and sparking that memory. So, some ways to do that are dropping off a folder with a pin in it, a sticker, or something with your Dance Marathon's logo. Step two is setting up a follow email. So something you can do as a dance marathon is making a template that is what you will be sending to every company. So your big committee or people in your committee can be sending that email and following up. Step three, you can be texting and calling and try to set up a in-person meeting. Face-to-face connection is really important here. And yeah.
All right, so out of those three steps, one thing that we really want to focus on is going to be that sponsorship packet and what that looks like. So I'll give some time there with that QR code. If you could scan that, that's going to pull up the sponsorship packet that we used for the 2025 year. And so this sponsorship packet is designed to attract potential sponsors, kind of explain what we are, what we do, because as you saw from our companies, they don't know what CowboyThon is. They just know what OSU is. They love it. They want to be a part of it and help. So one thing that's also important to look at is incentivizing these companies to join along. As much as you might have these personal connections with them, they are still a company and they need a reason to join. So you need to think of what are these reasons that they can join. So some things we found worked well was first off, brand recognition. And I'm gonna go ahead and touch on levels of incentives because those kind of go hand in hand. And so on our sponsorship packet, as you can see, is we have the different levels of sponsorships. Those are going to be Go Poke sponsor, Cowboy sponsor, Pistol Pete sponsor, Orange Power sponsor, and Miracle sponsor. And as you can probably tell from the names of those, once again, going back to these are related to our school. They're going to bring the school pride of depending on how much money you get, you're getting, Pistol Pete sponsor and what comes with that. And that is going to be that brand recognition of um, presenting their logo at the main event, having social media acknowledgement, as you saw on the first slide of that blue logos. That was posted on our Instagram, and then being on our T-shirt. And I have our T-shirt here that on the back of it has the logos on them. So all of that together helps bring in companies for that. Another thing is going to be tax benefits. That's a huge one, is because we are a donation beneficial organization, is they can get tax benefits through donations. And there's forms for that. That's an important one to realize. And then one other thing that we found successful this last year was taking advantage of schools' NIL. We found that in this new age of college sports where they're getting paid, they're also being with brands. And I'm not saying pair them up with brands or anything like that, but you can take advantage of having athletes at your main event and getting that connections with companies. And one other thing I'd like to speak on for the letter for the um, packet is going to be, it talks about once again this OSU pride. It says, at Oklahoma State University, we believe that being a cowboy isn't just in our clothes, it's in our character. And then one big selling point we had this year was we've pledged that a certain amount of money, $100,000, is going to be raised for OSU's neonatal program. So not just a medicine related thing, but an OSU thing is these donors can know they are helping OSU out whenever they donate money.
Yeah, and so we want to be following up with these companies and businesses and specify how you got their information when you reach out again. An example of this is like when you exchange numbers with someone, you're always saying this is Piper from class or Piper from basketball. So you really want to familiarize yourself with the business. Next, you want to thank them for taking the time to visit with you. Show gratitude. It's not just about getting that donation, but about building a connection and raising awareness. And it's okay to follow up again. And in these pictures here, we have some football players who came to an athlete event that we hosted, and then later on ended up coming to the main event and making a big impact that day. And in this other picture, we have Dr. Jim Hess, who is the president of OSU, and he came to the main event and really got to learn what CowboyThon was all about, and that is raising awareness and bridging the gap for OSU and our dance marathon. And next, we want to be maintaining our connections. The the connection doesn't end when the fundraising ends and when the year ends. You want to constantly be personable and stop by, raising awareness and trying to get these companies to come back next year and donate again. Something you want to also incorporate is handwritten thank you cards, letting them know of your successes. So we sent out these personalized thank you cards with our big reveal of how much we fundraised to really show the impact that these companies had on our dance marathon, along with a handwritten letter. And that's just a way to, maintain those connections.
All right. Well, thank you for the time today. Please let us know if you have any questions. We're going to be up here for the remainder of the time. And here's the QR code for the sponsorship folder again. And there's my contact information there. Thank you.
Thank you.